Hey everybody, welcome to Malt Muser Whiskey Reviews. I'm Eric up on the bar for today. It's a single malt, but it ain't from Scotland, it's from Ireland. This is the Glendalough, 13 years old, Mizunara finished single malt Irish whiskey. As always here on the channel, nose taste finish review. This whiskey's coming right your way. I'll tell you a little bit about the value, give you my final thoughts, final score, leave you with a malt musing as always. But first, before we go any further, take a second, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you don't miss these reviews. They come out every Friday here on YouTube. Also, keep you in the loop for my happy hours, which are every Tuesday live on YouTube at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Glendalough Distillery opened in 2011 from the town of Wicklow in Ireland. Five friends got together, put together a craft Irish whiskey distillery, and their stuff has been out on the market for, well, about since 2012. In addition to whiskey, they also do some gin, but the main bread and butter is their Irish whiskey. This one in particular is a 13-year-old single malt, and it has spent most of its time in American ex-bourbon casks. However, the interesting thing here is that it is finished for an undisclosed period of time, probably not very long, maybe a couple months, in Japanese Mizunara oak. If you aren't familiar with Mizunara oak, it is a pretty rare wood to use for whiskeys. It is grown primarily in Japan, goes back to World War II, and their inability during that time to actually get their hands on American casks, or Scotch casks for that matter. And it's a tree that takes about 200 years to even grow to maturity. The wood itself imparts kind of some different incense, sandalwood type spices. Quite delicious stuff if you've had a Japanese whiskey before. And the folks over at Glendalough have thrown their 13-year-old Irish single malt into some Mizunara. So this is bottled at 46% ABV. It does not say anything here on the tube about whether or not it is chill filtered or has color added. So we may have to assume that they have added some color to this and chill filtered it. Here's what the bottle looks like. And let's just do double check here. Yeah, it does not appear so. It just says here 13 years American oak bourbon barrels, finished in Japanese Mizunara oak puncheon barrels. Okay, that's the tail of the tape here. Let's get this in the glass. That is the color. Okay, on the nose. Immediately, fruit, sweetness, dry spices. Fruit notes, you get a little bit of apple, pear. There's even hints of maybe orange, dried orange, something like that. That Mizunara spice, the unmistakable notes are definitely coming through here. It's kind of like a Chinese five spice, sandalwood. It's a very kind of dry, soft spice. Not very aggressive, but very unique. You get some hints of that vanilla caramel, which you're probably getting off that American oak ex-bourbon. All in all, a very gentle, complex, interesting nose. Yeah, maybe some hints of kind of, but it's almost like tea. Interesting. Okay, let's give this a taste. Sancho. Mm. So that sweet and spice carry right into the initial taste here. What's interesting is the spice gives it almost kind of like a grainy texture. Like you would almost think this might be a like a single grain whiskey if you've had grain whiskey before. There's a bit of that spice, but it's definitely coming off the Mizunara. Drying, cinnamon. You get some nice juicy fruit notes, peach, apricot, pear, apple. As it develops, you get a nice full spice hit towards the back end as it goes into the finish. Again, it's drying. It's like a little bit chalky. It is not tannic like you expect off an oak barrel. And this is what I think is coming in from the Mizunara spice again. Also get a nice creamy hit of vanilla, slight kind of chocolate, like almost like a chocolate cocoa powder. Maybe some slight hints of cola here too. Very delicious. It's quite refined. No edges on this really at all. Even at 46%, I mean, it's a very nice measured paste and, kind of revealing delivery here. Okay, let's put a little bit of water on this. Like I said, it is 46%. We're just going to do 2 drops. See what else happens here. Get that water in here. Coat this glass. Give it just a second to breathe with the water. Allow it to do its magic. Second nose here with water. More citric. Lemon, orange. That maltiness is there. Mizunara spice, it's tamed down a little bit. Again, Mizunara, not a very aggressive in the traditional way, like you think about a bourbon where you have like heavy cinnamon notes or something like that. This is a much more subtle, refined spice. It's there, but it doesn't attack you the way those do. God, there's even some hints of almost like light notes of berry in here. Blueberry, strawberry. Very nice. Okay, give another taste. Much more bourbon character now. Chocolate's a bit more of a dark chocolate. Shows up more right away on the taste. Like creamy vanilla, there's hints of toffee, a little bit of butterscotch. The pear, the apple, still there. That Mizunara spice, going all the way through. Again, it's like sandalwood. It's like kind of like an incense smell to it. Jasmine rice. So it goes into the finish. Again, it's kind of mild. It's very mouth coating. A little bit on the, again, the texture is like a little chalky. I don't say that in a bad way, despite how it usually sounds when folks describe things as chalky. It's almost just like a cinnamon bread or like a gingerbread. Nice chocolate vanilla and a bit of, God, it's like apricot now. Orange apricot. Going into what's about a medium long finish. Quite good. Here's the tube again. So, value-wise, Glendalough Irish single malt whiskey, 13 years old. It's not an exclusive whiskey. It's not always the easiest thing to find here in the United States, but it is not any type of limited release or anything like that. So, with a little bit of hunting, you should be able to find a bottle of this. If you do, you will find this around that $100 range, which may seem a little bit steep for just a 13-year-old single malt whiskey. However, the Mizunara oak, not a cheap process, even with just finishing to get those barrels. It's not, it costs distillers quite a bit of money for those. In part justifies a little bit of the price here. I think there's a lot of uniqueness going on in this whiskey. So I'm going to give this right around a medium value, maybe just a slight tick above medium. Okay. Final thoughts. Glendalough, 13-year-old Irish single malt, finished in Mizunara oak. This is a really good one. It's a great whiskey in and of itself. The Mizunara oak just gives it a very unique quality to it. It is much less floral than a Japanese whiskey or whiskey made in Japan. It definitely has some of that Irish quality to it. The Mizunara oak is giving it just a little bit of flair. I really commend them. I think they did a great job here. The bourbon barrels are not overpowering. Everything is very well in balance. You get a lot of nice sweetness. You get a lot of nice fruit notes. You get a lot of spice. Just an all-in-all delicious whiskey, surprisingly relaxed given everything that's going on in this. So I really recommend this if you're looking for an Irish whiskey that really is going to kind of challenge you a little bit, something a little bit different. You're hard pressed to find a better one than this Glendalough 13 Mizunara. So I'm going to give this a really, really strong score. I think this is a whiskey that you should have on your shelf if you are in any way into single malts like Compass Box Spice Tree, or if you like, many Japanese whiskeys that are aged in Mizunara. I think this one is really, really worth your money, especially given the price of Japanese whiskeys these days. I'm going to give this a 4.25 out of 5, which means I do recommend you get yourself a bottle of this. All right. Glendalough, 13 years old, Mizunara Oak Single Malt Irish Whiskey. 4.25 is your score. I'm going to enjoy the rest of this dram and kick you on over to your malt musing. With that, I will catch you next week here on Malt Musing Whiskey Reviews. Leave a comment in the chat. If you had this one before, what are your thoughts on it? Is this a whiskey that you would run out and buy, recommend to others, or were you not really that into it? I'd love to hear. Until then, slash.